If your company's AI systems touch any data from the EU, you are navigating a serious regulatory minefield. So today, we're going to demystify GDPR for AI. We'll give you a clear path from understanding the risk to getting your organization ready. Let's dive right in. Okay, let's start with the one number that always gets the board's attention, 4%. This is the potential fine for not complying with GDPR. And it's not 4% of profit, it's 4% of your company's entire global annual revenue. To put that in perspective, we're talking fines that can hit tens of millions, sometimes even billions of euros. The stakes here, they really could not be higher. And yeah, that really gets to the heart of the matter. AI offers just incredible opportunities for innovation, for sure. But it also carries this significant, kind of hidden liability. A GDPR violation in one of your AI systems, that's not just a small hiccup. It can be a massive financial blow to the business. So, why is this so hard? Well, it really comes down to this fundamental disconnect. You have to remember, GDPR was written for a pre-AI world. It was designed for databases, not deep learning. And that means your current compliance playbooks, they're probably not ready to handle the unique curveballs that AI throws. This slide really breaks it down perfectly. On the left, that's the world GDPR was built for, right? It's all about structured databases where data has a clear purpose, and hitting delete on a row is simple. But AI lives in the world on the right. It learns from these huge blended data sets. It often repurposes data in ways nobody initially thought of, which makes the whole idea of forgetting one piece of data incredibly complicated. So let's dig into these points of conflict a bit more. Take a look at the table. You've got purpose limitation. Ask yourself this. If you collected data for, say, customer service tickets, can you just turn around and use it to train a brand new marketing AI? Probably not, at least not without a specific legal basis. Then there's data minimization. GDPR says collect only what's necessary, but machine learning, well, it's famous for saying give me everything. Every single one of these principles poses a really serious challenge for your AI systems. And this quote right here, it perfectly captures what we call the blended smoothie problem. Just imagine for a second. You made a big smoothie with strawberries, bananas, everything. Now, try to take out just the strawberry. You can't, right? It's impossible. Well, that's the challenge with AI. Once a person's data is blended into the complex math of a trained model, pulling it back out is incredibly difficult. Okay, so understanding where the biggest landmines are is absolutely key. We've pinpointed 3 specific compliance traps that are pretty unique to AI, and every single security and compliance leader really needs to have these on their radar. We're talking automated decision-making, the right to explanation, and machine unlearning. Let's kick things off with a question that feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's very, very real. Can an AI legally make a hiring decision or a loan decision about you all on its own? This isn't some future scenario. It's a direct question that GDPR's Article 22 tries to answer. So here's the key thing to understand about Article 22. It makes this crucial distinction. If a decision that has a legal or significant effect, like rejecting a loan or filtering out a job application, is made solely by an AI with no human involved, it is heavily restricted. The person affected has the right to challenge it and demand a human take a look. However, if you have a process with meaningful human review, where a real person has the genuine authority and ability to override the AI, you might fall outside those strict rules. And the key word there is meaningful. It can't just be a rubber stamp approval. Now for our second trap, and this one builds right on top of the first. See, it's not enough to just have a human in the loop. You also have to be able to explain why the AI made the recommendation it did. This is the right to explanation. It requires providing meaningful information about the logic involved. And that means you can't just dump the source code on someone. You have to explain the reasoning behind a decision in plain language. For instance, you have to be able to say your loan was denied because your debt-to-income ratio was too high. Not just, well, the model's confidence score was 0.2. And let me be absolutely crystal clear on this next point because it's so important. Your data science team might come to you and say, hey, the model is a black box. It's too complex to explain. That excuse will not work. It is not a valid defense in the eyes of a regulator. Plain and simple, if you can't explain how your AI makes high-stakes decisions, you might not be able to use it for those purposes at all, period. And that brings us to our third trap. And honestly, this is the one that gives engineers nightmares: machine unlearning. This is what happens when Article 17's right to erasure, or the right to be forgotten, meets AI. When a user asks you to forget them, it's not as easy as deleting a row in a database. You have to actually remove their data's influence from your trained models. It's that unblending the smoothie problem, and it is a massive technical hurdle. And look, there are no easy answers here. The options for machine unlearning are all pretty complex. You could retrain your entire model from scratch without that user's data. That's the most complete way to do it, but it is incredibly expensive and it takes a ton of time. Or you could use some newer approximate techniques that try to surgically remove the data's influence. Those are faster, but they're a lot harder to validate. The bottom line is this: you need to have a documented strategy in place before you get that first erasure request. All right, we've covered the challenges, and yeah, they are significant. But let's shift gears and talk about solutions. The best approach, the most effective approach, is to build compliance directly into the entire AI lifecycle. So we've broken this down into a really clear 4-phase plan that you can actually take back and use. See, this isn't a one-and-done audit. Compliance has to be part of every single stage, from how you gather your training data to how you actually build the model, then how you deploy it into the world, and finally, how you manage it throughout its operational life. So let's take a quick look at each of these phases. Everything starts here. Before you even write a single line of code, you've got to have a documented, lawful basis for every single data source you use for training. For most AI projects, this is also going to mean conducting a Data Protection Impact Assessment, or a DPIA, to find and fix risks early on. And crucially, you have to practice data minimization. Don't just shovel all your data into the model. You need to justify why each piece of data is necessary. And this doesn't just lower your compliance risk, it can actually improve your model by cutting out the noise. Next up, during development, you need to be thinking about privacy by design. This means you're proactively testing your model. You're looking for things like memorization, where the model might accidentally store and reveal sensitive information. Are you exploring techniques like differential privacy to protect individuals? And maybe most importantly, are you documenting everything along the way? Because trying to piece all that together during an audit is an absolute nightmare. Okay, so you're ready to go live. Now transparency becomes everything. Your users have to be clearly told when an AI is involved in a decision that affects them. Your explanation tools need to be built in and ready to go from day one. And if you're relying on that human-in-the-loop process, you have to ensure it provides real, genuine oversight, not just a rubber stamp. You should take a hard look at your own deployment processes. Are they really up to snuff? And finally, this doesn't stop once the model is launched. Compliance is a living, breathing thing. You need clear, tested procedures for handling data requests from users. Your machine unlearning strategy has to be defined and documented. And as your models learn and get retrained on new data, you've got to audit them regularly to make sure they're still compliant. This is not a set it and forget it kind of deal. It's a continuous process. So we've covered a ton of ground here, from the big technical challenges to the procedural solutions. But now I want to talk about the single most critical element in your entire compliance strategy. And it's probably not what you think. It's not some new fancy tool or a complex algorithm. Just look at this. When you analyze the really big GDPR enforcement actions, a startling fact emerges. An overwhelming 92% of the most significant fines, they're not linked to some clever hack or a model going rogue. They're linked to something much simpler: inadequate documentation. So, what does this all mean for you? It means your primary defense in a regulatory investigation is your paper trail. It's your audit trail. Can you prove you conducted a DPIA? Can you show the legal basis you used for the data? Can you pull up the documentation for your human review process? That documentation is what stands between you and that 4% fine. And that really leaves us with one final critical question to consider. It's not about whether your AI is perfect. It's about whether your governance and your documentation can prove that you've done the work. So is your AI documentation truly ready for that call from a regulator? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.